Gentlemen, the days in which we are living are extraordinary indeed. These times are absolutely amazing. Every time you turn around, there is some piece of momentous news that is dropping. This is one of those days, and it is absolutely a glorious time to be alive. Hi, how are you doing out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to the Monday night session of Chattin on the Porch, a little live stream where we get together and we talk about the news. And oh my lord, the past 96 hours. Woo, hello indeed. Hello, my love. How are you doing tonight? Woo, my goodness, have we got stuff going on. It is amazing out there. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We are on Rumble. We are on Twitter. And we are on that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. So if you haven't done it yet, please do me a favor. Send out the link. Tell your friends. Get in here. We have got so much to discuss. So many things to get into. So much news is happening. We're going to do our best to cover all of it for you guys tonight. There's just, oh my gosh, every time you turn around, there's news. There's rumors about news. There's rumors about the news. And oh my, my head's spinning around. I feel like Linda Blair from The Exorcist. You know, it's crazy, just crazy out there. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This live stream is known as Chattin on the Porch. We get together, we talk about the news, we give our opinions, we laugh, we cry, we vent. Sometimes we do all that at the same time. And otherwise, we console each other through this crazy thing we call life. So if you haven't done it yet, send out a Gettr, a Gab, a tweet, a Truth Social, a Facebook, wherever you are out there on social media, and tell all your friends to get in here. But oh my lord, have we got stuff to talk about. Put the leftovers away, start that dishwasher, or crack the whip on the kids and make them wash the dishes, because after all, they are living under your roof. Make them earn it, baby. And settle in, because it's going to be quite the night, and it's been quite the day. So yeah, we're here. We're glad to have y'all here. Let's just get into it, because there's like stuff to be talking about. I'm not sure who said it. Well, I've heard it attributed to a person recently, but there are days that go by when nothing happens, and then there are days that go by, it feels like years are happening in 24 hours or something to that effect. You get the general idea. And that's what's been happening. Even today, we have news dropping everywhere, and some of it we've been waiting for. And boy, when it came down, it did everything that it was billed to do. The past 96 hours, so let's say, yeah, that'd be about right. Thursday night at 9 o'clock, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, we're almost up to 96 hours. The past almost 96 hours are absolutely just extraordinary indeed. And what is this? They're yeah, they are the original indentured servants. Daggone it! As Bill Cosby was fond of saying, I brought you into this world, and I most assuredly can take you out. I think that do qualify as indentured service. Good evening, Robert Lyra. We're glad to have you in the audience tonight. Oh my gosh, so much to talk about, and we've got it's currently 7:35. I want to start off with probably the biggest piece of news that you might expect if you come to the Electronic Front Porch tonight, and that is a discussion of the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. And believe me, this one's big, people. This one is absolutely big. Cannot get around it. We've got to talk about it. Let me do. I thought I liked that adjustment I did the other day, and apparently I don't like it as much as I did. Technical thing. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, got to go back to doing it the old way. That way I can see exactly what I'm doing here. We're going to start with that. Now, at 7:45, supposedly at 7:45, let me put it that way, it is reported that President Biden will be giving remarks about what how he feels about the Supreme Court's decision. We're going to do our best to listen in on that, because I think that's being, fair to you guys, because, after all, some of you might have, digestion issues, and, if you need something to help you move the food along, this just might make you want to go to the bathroom. But no, he will be carrying it live. He will be carrying it live. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. What else we got here? A hung jury up there in Massachusetts. Reed versus MA, which I'm not pleased about. Would have preferred a not guilty. Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's just, there's all kinds of stuff going on, folks. It is madness out there. But yeah, President Biden will be speaking at 7:45. I am going to scramble around, do my best to find somebody that's carrying it because I want you guys to be able to hear it for yourselves. And yeah, well, now see, but he's going to have a teleprompter. He'll be in the White House. Supposedly, he'll be under no pressure. I'm just, I got a feeling he'll get through this fine. But that does bring up a very interesting point. And that is, he's going to be watched like a hawk from here to November 5th. And since we've got a few minutes to kill, and I'm still scrambling around trying to find a place where I can pick this up for you guys, let's just get into that because I can multitask, contrary to popular opinion. Everybody knows. You just stop that. Stop it. Stop that. Yeah, he'll read the notes off the teleprompter. TBA says over on Rumble, good evening TBA and WWG1. I'm hoping for the angry Biden or the sleepy Biden, one of the complete opposites. See, that's what I'm saying. He's going to be watched like a hawk going forward here. Okay, he really will. And the thing that maybe Biden does realize this. Maybe his campaign realizes this. Okay. Every little move he makes, every little step he takes, we'll be watching him. No, in seriousness. Seriously though, he will. Any slight stutter of his speech, any misapplied phrase, any whatever, okay? Everybody's going to be watching this. Everybody's going to see it. Everybody is going to be talking about it. So it's going to be something to watch. Like I say, we've got about 5 minutes before Biden is supposed to be speaking, and I think I have found a way. Well, I think I was going to find a way. I thought I just did. It just died on me. What's up with that? Now, this is very true. Makes me not quite sure I want to associate one of my favorite movies of all time with Joe Biden, but okay, point taken. I see where you're going with it. But yeah, I mean, this is where we are right now, and everything he does is going to be watched like a hawk. He makes any mistakes, any verbal gaffes, any mistakes stepping around, it's just going to be bad for him. It's going to take everybody right back to that debate night. And if he really flubs something, then it's going to be even worse. Okay? So I don't know, man. I don't know how, and we'll get into what's going on inside the Democrat Party, because there is a flat out, ain't no doubt about it, civil war going on right now. I ain't never seen nothing like this. This is just absolutely incredible what's happening. Hang on, folks. Oh, come on. You had this fixed up for me the last time. Why didn't you do this the way I want to do it? Sorry about this, folks. I am trying to... I think I've got it now. Well, maybe. Okay. Hang on, guys. I think this is going to let me do it. I'm sorry about this, folks. I should have had this pulled up. I think, come on, baby. Come on. I think we've all. Okay, good. We've got it. Okay. All right. Let's get into this while we're waiting. And yeah, they're giving it about 5 minutes to go. Sorry about this, folks. I was trying to do this on the fly. I think I've got it now figured out. But yeah, this is going to be some kind of night. Truly some kind of night. Anyway, what everybody's getting together to talk about, let's just go ahead and get into some of this while we are waiting. And I'll try and do my best to keep an eye on what's going on and where we're going to check this out. From the high temple of liberalism, the New York Times, we have the following. Supreme Court says Trump has some immunity in elections case. The ruling makes a distinction between official actions of a president, which have immunity, and those of a private citizen. In the dissent, the court's liberals lament a vast expansion of presidential power. Now, see, I already disagree with how the liberal media is spinning this, okay? This is not an expansion of power. This is simply codifying what has generally been understood up until now and frankly already been the accepted practice. It never would have gotten to a Supreme Court decision if the Democrats would have simply honored the tradition that's gone on in this country for over 200 plus years. You don't go after former presidents for actions they committed while they were in office. But January 6th, he was still president. He still had the right to speak out about this. He still had the First Amendment, just like you do, just like I do, just like anybody else does. But he was still president. And the things he was commenting on went to functions of his office. Maybe not quite what the Supreme Court today called core function, but it is there. All right, it looks like we're down to the 2-minute warning, and everybody's keeping an eye on what's going on at the White House. So I'm trying to do the same thing here. And all right, what's going on with you guys? Talk to me, guys. What's happening here?
Policy.
Yes.
That's what they get. And I think what the nation is craving.
They're still talking this thing out. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. This is absolutely the thing. There's not a reason why. Yeah, sorry. Hang on, let me get back to me. Sorry, folks, I'm being a little discombobulated tonight. I do apologize. Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, this is not an expansion of power. It's not an expansion of power at all. This is simply codifying what has been up to now a tradition. But even if Donald Trump were not involved in this, okay? Even if Donald Trump were not involved, it's a perfectly legitimate question. And that is, can you go after a former president for actions that they took while they were in office? We'll get back to that article from the New York Times after we get through hearing Biden's remarks. Brett Baer just pulled up on Fox, so they're probably down to the 2-minute warning. But yeah, this is going to be fascinating to watch. I don't understand. Well, I do understand the why. Okay, you got a gentleman coming up there checking the microphones. He just laid out the physical text on the podium. So he's probably giving everybody okay, we got the 2-minute warning now. Sorry about this, folks. I'm trying to keep an eye on one thing, talk to y'all at the same time. I think I'm doing reasonably well. At least I hope I am anyway. Yeah, I want to hear what Biden's got to say about this. Because frankly, and who was it? I think it was was it M169? Yeah, it was M169, I believe. This applies to him. This applies to him just as much as it applies to anybody else. No, I'm sorry. It was up in Connecticut. I apologize. Dear. Yeah, this applies to Biden. And frankly, even though, as far as I'm concerned, it never should have come down to a Supreme Court ruling. Okay, here comes Biden. So we're going to pop this up on screen. I'm going to step out the way. We will hear remarks from the president. Let me know if you guys have any trouble with
Not only test your judgment, perhaps even more importantly, it's an office that tests your character. Because you not only face moments when you need the courage to exercise the full power of the presidency, you also face moments where you need the wisdom to respect the limits of the power of the office of the presidency. This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. With today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed. For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
That's not what
The
they
only
said.
limits will be self-imposed by the president alone. This decision today has continued the court's attack in recent years on a wide range of long-established legal principles in our nation, from gutting voting rights and civil rights, to taking away a woman's right to choose,
Oh my God.
to today's decision that undermines the rule of law of this nation. Nearly 4 years ago, my predecessor sent a violent mob to the U.S. Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power.
No, he
We
did
all saw it
not.
with our own eyes. We sat there and watched it happen that day.
No, you didn't. Not the way
Attack
you're
on the
describing it.
police, the ransacking of the Capitol, a mob literally hunting down the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi.
That's not true.
Gallows erected to hang the Vice President, Mike Pence. I think it's fair to say it's one of the darkest days in the history of America.
By your reckoning.
Now the man who sent that mob to the U.S. Capitol is facing potential criminal conviction for what happened that day. And the American people deserve to have an answer in the courts before the upcoming election. The public has a right to know the answer about what happened on January 6th before they are asked to vote again this year. Now, because of today's decision, that is highly, highly unlikely. It's a terrible disservice to the people of this nation. So now the American people will have to do what the courts should have been willing to do, but will not. The American people have to render a judgment about Donald Trump's behavior. The American people must decide whether Donald Trump's assault on our democracy on January 6th makes him unfit for public office in the highest office in the land. The American people must decide if Trump's embrace of violence to preserve his power is acceptable. Perhaps most importantly, the American people must decide they want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump, now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it. You know, at the outset of our nation, it was the character of George Washington, our first president, to define the presidency. He believed power was limited, not absolute. And that power always resides with the people, always. Now, over 200 years later, today's Supreme Court decision, once again, it'll depend on the character of the men and women who hold that presidency that are going to define the limits of the power of the presidency, because the law will no longer do it. I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years, but any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law. I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today. Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent. May God bless you all. May God help preserve our democracy. Thank you. May God protect our troops.
Why are you the best Democrat to beat Trump?
What makes you so confident you should be the president?
Honey, you're not getting an answer to that question, I assure you. Okay, folks, there it is. We've got reaction from POTUS himself. Oh, I know, TBA. I know. Oh, we've got so much to chew through on this. Yes, he isn't exactly. This is exactly what there is so much to go through. Guys, these are just my quick observations that I've got, just the quick hearing of this. He is trying to shame the American people right now. Did you catch that stuff about the American people must render a judgment on whether Donald Trump is fit for office? They must render a judgment on whether he has the temperament for the office. They must render. He's trying, and I know, and ladies, don't get mad at me when I say this, but I know where he's going with this. He's going after American women on this. He is trying to shame them He is trying to shame them into coming back to the Democrat fold. He's trying to shame them into saying, hey, you got to render a judgment. You got to look at the character Donald Trump. How dare you? Now, the part that any number of things crack me up about his remarks. I mean, the argument that the Supreme Court has laid down a new principle. This is not a new principle, folks. Oh, no, the reason they're saying that is Donald Trump is actually trying to make sure that we actually have clean and fair elections. That's exactly why they're doing it. This is not a new principle, ladies and gentlemen. As I was saying before we heard the remarks, it has always been a well-established tradition in this country, okay, that you don't go after your political opponent or the previous president if you're the current president of the United States. This is a tradition that has been long recognized. Every president has new presidents come into office and found stuff that his predecessor has done or didn't do, which if they want to push the issue, they could take it to the Justice Department. They could get them prosecuted. We don't do that for the sake of the civil society. TBA over on Rumble says, you poor weak-minded females, you got to remember who has your best interests at heart. I've heard this BS all my life. It was crap 60 years ago. It's crap today. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But it has been understood in this country, you don't go after your predecessor. Until now, when Joe Biden, vis-a-vis Merrick Garland, vis-a-vis Jackboot Smith, started laying down cases in Miami and laying down cases in D.C., and this one's going to gut the decision in D.C. Now, the other part that just absolutely makes me mad is Biden, Sotomayor, the other two liberals on the Supreme Court, Democrats. There's one very important thing that they're not telling the American people right now. And guys, keep your ears open for this. And you guys I know you guys, you're already smart to this, but for those of you who are watching that maybe politics isn't your bag and you're coming here like, Front Porch, what should I be listening for? I'm so glad you asked me that question. Let me tell you what you should be listening for. They're going to try and convince you that what the Supreme Court did today was put the president above the law. He has the power to do anything he wants. That's not correct. As a matter of fact, let's go back to that New York Times article. We'll finish that up, and then I'm going to go into an explanation of why that whole argument is a load of horse crap, okay? Again, back to the pages of the New York Times, and we'll get into this. Article by Adam Liptek. I'm starting to like his writing. I don't agree with him on everything, but I like the way he writes. Anyway, the Supreme Court ruled on Monday that former President Donald J. Trump is entitled to have substantial immunity from prosecution on charges of trying to overturn the last election, a blockbuster decision in the heat of the 2024 campaign that vastly expanded presidential power. Again, this does not expand presidential power. It recognizes a tradition in America, but the Supreme Court, unfortunately, had to get into this thing because of what the Biden administration and the Biden Justice Department was doing. Now, I call it tradition. There is a legal principle at stake here, and for the sake of fairness, there is legal principle at stake. What actions can and should the president take? And can he be prosecuted for them if they are actions of his office? And up to now, no one's ever had to answer this question because the tradition has sort of shielded us from having to answer the legal question. The tradition is you don't go after your predecessor, for actions that they took while they were in office. That's the tradition. And because more or less everybody has abided by that for 200 plus years, no one's ever had to answer the legal question. Can they be prosecuted for actions they take while they are in office once they get out? TBA says the president only has the power to do what is within the law. He cannot take the law in his own hands and do whatever he wants. TBA, you hold on to that thought. We're going to get back to that. We are absolutely going to get back to that. Robert Lowry over on the YouTube side says, the decision was about war crimes committed by previous administrations who were put in jeopardy by lawfare. Exactly. Every Democrat president, Obama being the most recent one that comes to my mind, and may I say most recent Republican prior to Trump, George W. Bush, better thank God the Supreme Court handed down this decision, because I'm telling you right now, the way the Democrats were going, if the Supreme Court did not bring a halt to this madness, and that's exactly what it is, it's constitutional madness, constitutional and judicial madness. If they didn't bring a halt to this, there were going to be some people on the hook for some crap that they did when they were in office. And don't you think at all that lawyers, attorney generals across this country, the attorney generals of the United States, would not be going after people? That's what the Democrats opened the door to here. And thank God the Supreme Court had the good common sense to put the halt to this. But it's an expansion of power. It's not an expansion of power, people. And I'm not saying you, my audience. I'm talking about y'all out there on the left, or maybe some people in the middle. It's not an expansion of power. It is finally the Supreme Court having to answer a question that up to now tradition has sort of shielded us from having to deal with. All right, let's get back to this article from the New York Times, because Lord, we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. The vote was 6-3, dividing along partisan lines. Its immediate practical impact will be to further complicate the case against Mr. Trump, with the chances that it will go before a jury ahead of the election now vanishingly remote, and the charges against him, at a minimum, narrowed. The decision amounted to a powerful statement by the court's conservative majority that presidents should be insulated from the potential that actions they take in carrying out the official duties could later be used by political enemies to charge them with crimes. Chief Justice John G. Roberts, Jr., writing for the majority, said Mr. Trump had at least presumptive immunity for his official acts. He added that the trial judge must undertake an intense factual review to separate official and unofficial conduct and to assess whether prosecutors can overcome the presumption protecting Mr. Trump for his official conduct. If Mr. Trump prevails at the polls, the issue could become moot since he could order the Justice Department to drop the charges. The liberal wing, in some of the harshest dissents ever filed by justices of the Supreme Court, said the majority had created a kind of king not answerable to the law. Broad immunity for official conduct is needed, the Chief Justice wrote, to protect, quote, an energetic, independent executive. The president, therefore, may not be prosecuted for exercising core constitutional powers, and he is entitled, at a minimum, to a presumptive immunity from prosecution for all of his official acts. That immunity applies equally to all occupants of the Oval Office, regardless of politics, policy, or party. The alternative, the Chief Justice wrote, is to invite tit-for-tat political reprisals. Virtually every president is criticized for insufficiently enforcing some aspect of federal law, such as a drug, a gun, immigration, or environmental laws, he wrote. An enterprising prosecutor in a new administration may assert that a previous president violated that broad statute. Without immunity, such types of prosecutions of ex-presidents can quickly become routine. In dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote that the decision was gravely misguided. In a rare move and a sign of deep disagreement, she summarized her dissent from the bench, making the off-the-cuff remarks that underscored her frustration. Quote, today's decision to grant former presidents criminal immunity reshapes the institution of the presidency. It makes a mockery of the principle, foundation to our constitutional system of government, that no man is above the law. In her own dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote that, quote, the court has now declared for the first time in history that the most powerful official in the United States can, under circumstances yet to be fully determined, become a law unto himself. Okay, let's get into this. Basically, what the court did is they more or less broke down a 3-tier category of presidential actions. Okay. How you ask? Okay. Number 1, there are core constitutional functions of the presidency. Okay. President is immune on that question. If it's a core constitutional function of his office, you cannot prosecute him after he or she leaves, because that is absolutely, yeah. Now, what about those actions that kind of fall in that gray area? Well, let me back that up a second. On the other end of that spectrum are actions that are not official. Supreme Court said if it's not an official action of the president carrying out the functions of his or her office, okay, then no presidential immunity applies. Okay, that's commonsensical. I get it. Cool. That makes sense to me. And then there's those set of actions that are kind of right in the middle. They might be part of core function, but we don't really know. So basically what the Supreme Court did was, okay, fine. If before you can prosecute a president on the question of this is something that is not part of their core constitutional function, the judge has to do a vigorous review of the actions in question to determine, is this core constitutional function, or is this not an official function of the office of the president? If it's not an official function, okay, fine. No immunity applies. Do whatever. That's all they did. That is all they did. Now, the part that's cracking me up, and I want to go back to Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson here, okay? I want to read this again, and then I want to ask you guys a question. Today's decision to grant, and this is from Sotomayor, today's decision to grant former presidents criminal immunity reshapes the institution of the presidency. It makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our constitutional system of government that no man is above the law. In her own dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote that, quote, the court has now declared for the first time in history that the most powerful official in the United States can, under circumstances yet to be fully determined, become a law unto himself. I have a question for you, my audience. Is there anything in the Constitution that can be done to remove a president of the United States if they have engaged in bribery, treason, or high crimes and misdemeanors? I will await your answer. Seabass, how you doing, you old dog? Haven't seen you in a while. Worst judges are women. Prove me wrong. Dude, you're fighting that one on your own. I love you, but you're fighting that one on your own. Is there anything in the Constitution that allows for the government of the United States to remove a president if they have engaged in treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors? And once you answer this question with the answer I think you're going to give me, then everything that Sotomayor and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson just wrote is out the window. We have a taker on this question. I believe there is. Pray, what do you think is this mechanism that allows the members of the federal government to remove a president? Ding, 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 ding. Right here, y'all. Right here. Right here. Impeachment. This, ladies and gentlemen, is just one more proof as to why I have the smartest audience on the internet in anywhere in all of the whole of social media. Thank you, Fedora Nation. You have lived up to your reputation. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This argument from Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Biden, everybody else is a load of horse crap. If the president, exactly. If the president, Article 3, Section 3, there you go. If the Congress determines that the president has engaged in bribery, treason, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, The Constitution gives them a mechanism to remove that individual from the office of the president. The House impeaches the president, and by 2/3 vote of the Senate, they are convicted. If they are convicted, they're gone. This argument that, oh my God, you've made them a law unto themselves. No, you haven't. There is just as much accountability under the Constitution now as there was before the Supreme Court laid down this decision. And might I add, for the benefit of all you liberals out there that are wailing and gnashing your teeth and tearing your garments, okay? May I point out something else to you? Not only do you have just as much protection against abuse of power now as you had before this decision got laid down, you also have the preservation of another extremely important legal principle, not just to American jurisprudence, but jurisprudence going all the way back to the days of Anglo-Saxon law, and that is the presumption of innocence. A man or woman is innocent until proven guilty. This is why the Supreme Court said, look, before you can prosecute somebody who's a former president, you better make very good and sure that the actions that you're about to prosecute them for are not covered as an official act of their office. If they are, you cannot go after them for it. Now, some people are saying this decision is not as strong as it needs to be. Some people are saying it's too strong. Look, to me, I'm kind of Goldilocks on this thing. I think this was absolutely the right place for the court to be. I think, again, I'm not just saying that because I'm a Trump guy. I'm not just saying that because, this furthers the cause. No, take Trump out of it. I tell you what, for all you lefties out there that are watching this live stream right now, may I respectfully remind you that your President Obama drone struck an American citizen on foreign soil, absent the benefit of a trial, absent the benefit of due process, not only killed him, but killed his son. If you don't have this decision come down from the Supreme Court and you get some Republican attorney general somewhere down the line, then the door is open for somebody to go after Barack Obama. And guess what happens when they go after Barack Obama? A Democrat president comes in after that Republican president's out of office. You've now got a Democrat attorney general. Well, let's see. George W. Bush did stuff related to the Iraq War. He probably lied about getting us into it. Let's go after him for that. I mean, Roberts is absolutely right. Where does this stop? Did the Supreme Court really want to deal with this question? I rather doubt it. All things being equal. But then again, they had no choice. Somebody had to bring this to an end. This is crazy where this could go. Do we want to go back to Bill Clinton and the bombing of the aspirin factories when he was being impeached? Or the bombings in Yugoslavia? I mean, if it doesn't stop here, it's never going to end. And again, take Trump out of it. Put any former president that's living in that box. The same thing could very easily just as much apply to them. But what's Biden doing with this? Attacking the Supreme Court, attacking Trump, reminding everybody about January 6th, trying to guilt shame the American people into you better believe that democracy is the most important issue because now you've got to render a judgment. The Supreme Court wouldn't do it. It's up to you. I tell you what, he better thank God in heaven that the Supreme Court handed down this ruling, because I'm telling you right now, don't tell me there aren't some out for blood Republicans out there that if Trump does get back in, they don't want to go after this guy. And believe me, they'd have umpteen millions of possible things to go after him for. Conduct when he was vice president, conduct when he was president of the United States, etc., and so on. Sotomayor is weeping lib tears in her jeers. Yes, TBA, I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. I don't know about invincible, but I'd make an argument the Almighty's looking out for him. I'll give him that. Kind of reminds me of that line from Braveheart. You know, Stephen the Irishman looks at Mel Gibson's character and says, "Surely the Lord sent me here to watch out for you." I'm not quite crazy enough to do that laugh, but you get the point. But yeah, I mean, this is just mind-boggling. Well, that's not really mind-boggling to me. Of course the Democrats are going to make hay out of this. But if they'd actually stop long enough to think about it, this is not new constitutional principle. It is simply finally putting down in black and white what's sort of been generally understood for years. Like I said, tradition on the one hand has kept us from dealing with the legal question on the other. And now the Supreme Court, because the tradition's been obliterated, now deals with the legal question. And that's a great point, TBA. By the time we get to November 5th, no one's going to remember this ruling. Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I don't know that no one's going to remember this ruling. I mean, if I know Biden, he's just going to be like, the Supreme Court says me illegitimate. Yeah. Biden's going to try and make hay out of this for as long as he possibly can. Don't you think he won't? But honestly, forgive me for my language, the Supreme Court just saved his ass. The Supreme Court just saved Barack Obama's ass. The Supreme Court just saved George W. Bush's ass. Don't worry. We're getting to that. Hang on. I saw it. I saw your message today. We're getting to that. But of course, as the host of your show, I have to give my opinion first. Before you hear what anybody else has got to say about it, I'm getting first shot at this thing, okay? We're getting to that. Don't worry. All right, let's get some reaction to this ruling. And we'll start, first of all, with the inestimable Jonathan Turley.
Yeah, in reading through this opinion...
I'm not ready for you yet. I got to do my dramatic intro, Jonathan. Chill. Technology, I love it when it's working. Anyway. Oh, I'm having fun tonight. I don't know about y'all, but I'm having fun. I tell you what, if I may for just a moment. Like I said at the start of the live stream, these are extraordinary times in which to be alive. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. I remember, I'm old enough to remember and have lived through the fall of the Iron Curtain. And that was an extraordinary period from in 89 and 90, particularly the summer of 1990. Because every time I turned around or I turned on the cable news, a people's revolution is breaking loose in Poland, or the Velvet Revolution of Czechoslovakia, where they just basically sloughed off communism and they obtained their freedom. The fall of the Berlin Wall. And this, and I'm not trying to romanticize it, I'm not, but I'm probably doing it to a certain degree. But these times that we are living through are extraordinary. They truly are. And they're going to be good days and they're going to be bad days. And there are going to be days when I sit there and go, really? Then there are going to be days I go, yeah, but it's just a remarkable time to be alive. And as human beings, as this human being, I can't speak for everybody else, but I am blessed to be alive and be vibrant and be aware and learning and watching as much as I possibly can. Yeah, I think that's an interesting way of saying it, TBA. Each of those events, the fall of the Berlin Wall, were microcosms of what the world is experiencing this year. That's a good point. And you know what? Especially when we get into our discussion of the French election, that's a good way of framing it. That really is. Anyway, let's get to some reactions. Jonathan Turley, the inestimable professor from George Washington University, Fox legal scholar, he's got some remarks. This is going to run about a little over 2.5 minutes, and I'm really not feeling like interrupting it. I may if I need to, but folks, do me a favor, check this out.
In reading through this opinion, I can't see how this doesn't induce cardiac arrest with the special counsel. At one point in the opinion, they say, look, this is a quote, the indictment's allegations that Trump attempted to pressure the vice president to take particular acts in connection with his role with the certification proceeding, thus involve official conduct. And Trump is at least presumptively immune from prosecution for such conduct. The court then goes on to say that the burden, of course, is on Jack Smith. He has to show that this does not pose any intrusions into the executive branch. And the court says that that this, quote, may well hinder the president's ability to perform his constitutional functions. So here the court is imposing a very significant burden on Jack Smith when this goes back to the judge. We talked about how this trial judge has proven to be very favorable towards Jack Smith. She's certainly been motivated to try to get a trial before the election. But the court here is giving much more clear lines than some people expected. They're saying that there's a presumption here that you have to deal with. The burden is high, and the court indicates that it may view this as something that could hinder a president's authority.
Trey, the Biden campaign clearly is indicating that they think this is a loss, at least in the way they wrote that statement that Dana read. I want to just read for 1 second about the dissent from Justice Sotomayor, who writes the dissent with Kagan and Jackson. Today's decision to grant former presidents criminal immunity reshapes the institution of the presidency. It makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our Constitution and system of government that no man is above the law. Whatever happens, as you read through this decision, it does expand the power of the executive.
No, it doesn't, Brett. No, it doesn't. Yeah, this is, there's some Supreme Court cases where the court hands down something and you're like, oh, okay, this seems kind of routine, not that serious, but yeah. This is one for the ages. This is one for the ages. And like I say, it's an extraordinary time to be alive to watch these things happen, regardless of which side of the argument you wind up being on. All right. Everyone's favorite communist over at CNN, Van Jones. Van Jones had to weigh in on this thing, as you might expect. All right, let's give the devil his due. Let's see what old Van's got to say about it.
About the legal implications of all this. I want to first bring in CNN's Van Jones and Scott Jennings. Van, as you look at this, what stands out to you?
Well, it's a very concerning outcome. There's a maxim that says in law, bad facts create bad law. So when you have somebody doing stuff that's so terrible, the stuff that Trump did in office, it creates these bad facts. The court has to come in and figure out what to do about it. It often creates bad law. Basically, the question is, Supreme Court, do you more care about the unlawful conduct of a sitting president or possibly the unfair prosecution of a former president? That's really what they had to balance.
Back that up a second.
They're obviously
Hang
more
on.
concerned about the latter. That's really what they had to balance. Or possibly the unfair prosecution of more care about the unlawful conduct of a sitting president or possibly the unfair prosecution of a former president. That's really what they had to balance. They're obviously more concerned about the latter. And so I think politically, it's bad. It makes the Supreme Court look very partisan. They're supposed to be wearing these kind of black and white umpire jerseys or whatever. They look like they're wearing red jerseys or even MAGA hats. It's going to go down bad politically for the Supreme Court. It's also scary because what is Trump going to do? If Trump gets elected and there's this idea that he can get away with even more stuff, that's really, really scary for the public because he already ran over every norm that he could. So it seems like, I mean, I'm just looking at this politically, not legally, politically, it's almost like a license to thug in a way. Like you can do whatever you want, and the Supreme Court is probably going to let you get away with it. That is very frightening in this case, and so I'm very, very concerned.
No, you cannot do whatever you want. There is a provision built into the Constitution that is called impeachment. And you do it for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, Van. This does not give him the license to thug or to do anything else. But of course they're going to spin it that way. And the attacks on the Supreme Court are just going to continue unabated. Well, they're supposed to be wearing black and white robes. Now they're wearing MAGA red hats. Oh, come on, Van. Your former boss ought to be thanking God. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Only Trump is the one who's ever done anything wrong. What law school did Van Jones go to? No idea. Couldn't tell you. Well, out of my own curiosities, since you asked me that question. Hang on a second. Because you know he probably has at some point or another. Oh, he did go to law school. Yale University. Well, Yale's not what it used to be, I'll tell you that much. Oh, boy. All right, let's get some more reaction to this thing. Robert Barnes has weighed in on, and he brings up a very valid point. Because if Trump's lawyers want to push it, they might get the sentencing on July 11th put off for a while if Marshawn were even to consider this. And here's the point that Robert Barnes makes. The New York case alleges that all the criminal acts occurred while Trump was president in order to stay president to cover up an alleged plan to steal the presidency. Well, the New York judge never conducted the pretrial analysis SCOTUS requires in any indictment of the president. The verdict should be vacated. Oh, that is a great point. Because remember what Roberts and the majority did today. They said, look, you got two basic actions here. Okay, you got core constitutional function. These are things that are part of his office. Then you got actions that are not part of his office, therefore immunity doesn't apply. All right, fine. Then you got those actions that like, well, it's on the edge of being a part of his function, but we don't really know, so we better put this thing through a pretty vigorous test. Well, now remember what they just went up to New York and tried to do? Hey, after the election was over, he engaged in trying to do a hush money scheme with a porn star. But wait a minute, he did that after he was sworn in. Now, would that have been a function of his office? Or are those the actions of a private citizen? Well, now, hang on a second. My memory, my somewhat the unpickled part of my brain seems to remember to me that when Bill Clinton was president of the United States, didn't he pay Paula Jones about $900,000 to settle a lawsuit that was brought about for actions he took when he was governor of Arkansas? I mean, guys, and I'm almost sure I'm right about the details, but in my recollection, Bill Clinton, and I think his attorney at the time was Bob Bennett, paid a settlement of $900,000 to Paula Jones, and in doing so, that was done while Clinton was in office, but for actions that he took while he was governor of Arkansas. Well, now hang on a second. If we're going to go after We're going to go after Trump. How come we're not going after Clinton? Oh, well, he wasn't trying to cover up an election. Well, no, wait a minute. Now, I guess, but here's the question that I'm asking. So when Bill Clinton settled that lawsuit, was he doing that as part of his core constitutional duties of office? Or did what he did not apply to his actions as president? Okay. All right. I believe everything you said except for the last two words. Beautiful Hillary. Now, look, I'm as much a BSer as anybody else, but I'm sorry. Ain't no way in the infernal regions of Dante's hell that I will call Hillary Clinton a beautiful woman. That's an insult to beautiful women everywhere. I can't. Gypsy, I love you, but I cannot walk that mile of ground. Can't do it. Yeah, I mean, look, when Bill Clinton settled that lawsuit, was he doing that as part of his functions as president? Or was that him being a private citizen? Okay, if you're going to make the argument that Bill Clinton was settling that lawsuit as part of his functions as president, then why can't you make the same argument about Trump? Well, that's not what he was doing. Well, how do we know? The judge never did any kind of an analysis to determine whether or not the actions that Trump took were part of that function. And now you've got a Supreme Court case that lays down a very vigorous test for any judge to determine whether or not, okay, was the action in question that you're trying to prosecute him for, was it part of his function of office or was it not part of his function of office? I think Barnes is right. If I were Trump's lawyers, I'd file a motion and I'd say, look, I got a Supreme Court case right here says you have to determine whether or not the actions that he engaged in were part of his core duties as president. Because remember, when all that deal went down with Michael Cohen and everything else, the payments and everything else, the payments happened after January 20th of 2017. Trump was already in office. Were the payments to Cohen part of his function as a president or not? We don't know. Marchand's never made a determination. I'd do it. You got nothing to lose. I mean, they're going to sentence him in 10 days. You may as well go find out. My kid interned at Judicial Watch back in the Clayman days. Oh, I remember Larry Clayman. Oh, those were heady days. Very lib. Chris Dam says she learned that. Yeah, she's a criminal. Never voted for Trump, though. No, that's all right. Don't worry about it. Good evening, young lady. Glad to have you in the audience as always. Glad to have you. Glad to see you. So, yeah, I mean, Barnes is right. Do it. What have you got to lose? Make Marchand answer that question. Because up till now, it's never, well, I shouldn't say never been an issue, never tried to be raised. But, yeah, I would. I'd absolutely do it. I would absolutely do it. Now, as y'all might expect, the memes, which to me are our way of communicating politically anymore, the memes today have been glorious, and I got to show y'all one just for laughs. I think you guys get a kick out of this. That's great. I tell you, some people are just so daggone creative. Now, I've shown you the good, but I got to show you the bad. And this goes to something that Gypsy pointed out to me today. And I tell you what, I don't agree with Van Jones, but Van Jones can be civil about this. There are people out there right now, including newspaper editorial boards, that have lost their mind. And I don't mean in a funny kind of way. I mean, these people are just, pardon my language, damn dangerous. Okay? Here are an example of some posts on Twitter various other things. Check these out. This is just some sick, demented stuff. So if Joe Biden declared today that November's election is canceled and ordered the military to keep him in power, would that be an official act? No, that's not what we're talking about here. Moving on to another really fun example. I strongly encourage Joe Biden to take advantage of his absolute immunity, which he has been granted by Trump's Supreme Court justices, to do whatever official acts he needs to do to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president. Hey, Junior, Dash, was it Dombrowski? Dumsky? Yeah, Dash Dumsky. Hey, Dash Dumsky, no one said he has absolute immunity, you bonehead. He has immunity for actions taken that are part of his core constitutional functions as president. If the Congress feels like that he's engaged in an action that amounts to treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, they still have the power of impeachment. This does not make the president a law unto himself, bonehead. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, here's some more of what these people are loony tuning. Yeah, listen to this. The Supreme Court just gave Biden unequivocal immunity to order the military to take action on Trump today. Now, and here's the one. Here's the one. This is from the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken. To serve his country, President Biden should drone strike Donald Trump. And this is just some of the milder stuff, but there's just stuff like this floating around the internet that is just absolutely absurd. Yeah, they really are. They really are. They really are. And again, this does not grant the president absolute immunity. Liberal mainstream media has taken off their mask and got their knives out. Oh, hold on to that thought about knives out. That's going to get real interesting here in a minute, too. But yeah, so the Supreme Court handed down the last and the biggest ruling of them all. There were a couple of others. And we might touch on them this weekend on Front Porch Brunch. I haven't really had a chance to dive into them because I was just waiting for this one, U.S. v. Trump. And let me tell you, I've been teasing this ruling the whole last couple of weeks, and boy, did it not disappoint. Absolutely amazing. Oh, yeah, Chevron was great too. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not in a good place as a country. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Okay, I always try to be optimistic. I always try to keep my chin up. I always try to look on the bright side. But let's just be honest. We're not in a good place right now for a lot of different reasons. But there are things that are starting to happen that give us the potential, not the guarantee, but the potential that if we, the American people, can turn this around, we're going to be given the tools to do it. So, like I said, be realistic, but also be optimistic. Be a realistic optimist. That's my advice. Okay, let me do a real quick commercial here. We'll move on to our next topic. If you're coming upon this live stream and you see this handsome-looking fellow in a fedora and this dashingly great outfit, you might be asking yourself, who the heck is this guy anyway, and why have I never found him before on the internet? Well, let me tell you who I am. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and the live stream that you found is called Chattin on the Porch. We get together Monday through Thursday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, and we talk about the news, and we try to have as much fun as we possibly can talking about the news. I mean, I'm going to have fun talking about the news, even if I get red-faced and start going, I'm still having fun, believe it or not. We are on Twitter. We are on Rumble. We are on YouTube. So if you are not a subscriber to my channel, please, please, please subscribe. Oh, by the way, saying that, I need to give some shout outs right now to some folks who've recently signed up on Rumble. Give me just a second here, folks, and I'll tell you who they are. We have new members of Fedora Nation. And let me grab some names here. These are pretty cool. This was really nice. Republican 13 and Susie Fobert and a gentleman named Jack Suter. So On behalf of everybody here, welcome to Fedora Nation. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being a subscriber on Rumble. Always glad to have new folks coming in. And the weekend was great. I've got to clip out that interview with Eric Abinante, comedian and documentarian. That interview was great. I had a load of fun. I think Eric did too. And Darius D. Simpson was here Saturday afternoon. So yeah, we are always glad to have new members of Fedora Nation, and it's an absolute great time. Thanks for following on the Rumble channel from over the weekend. Glad to have you here. We're just moving on up all the way around. So thank you so much. All right. Let us move on to the newest craze and fad in America. And it's mostly a fad among Democrats, and that is what I call the knife out move. Basically, this is what happens when Democrats turn on each other because they don't like how things are going with their presidential candidate. And oh boy, whoo, I have never seen the kind of internal civil war that is going on right now inside the Democrat Party ever since the night of the debate. Now, if y'all were here with us watching the debate, you saw maybe the worst performance by any presidential candidate in the history of modern televised debate. Forget Richard Nixon in 60. Forget Dukakis in 88. Forget Gerald Ford in 76. Forget Reagan in 84. Oh my gosh. Biden was atrocious on so many levels. Yes, Eric was a fabulous interview. Love that guy. He's great. Eric's welcome back on the electronic front porch anytime he wants to be here. But that debate was just absolutely awful. And it's gotten so bad, and the knives are out for Joe Biden so much. Here's what the Democrat National Committee is actually considering doing. This is from Yasir Ali of MSNBC News. The Democrat National Committee is considering formally nominating Joe Biden as early as mid-July to ensure that the president is on the November ballots, which helps to stamp out intra-party chatter about replacing him after last week's poor debate performance. Now, let's back up for a second and talk about this. As you all know, the Democrats currently have a problem right now with the state of Ohio. And just to give you a brief recap of what's going on, the state of Ohio requires that the candidate must be declared by the party by no later than 90 days prior to the election. Well, for this year's calendar, that means that you're talking about August the 7th. Okay? Well, it's just one little problem. The Democrats will not officially declare Biden the nominee until the convention in August, which starts, I believe, the 18th. So we're talking about 11 days past the deadline. Now, they've been trying to work this out with the state of Ohio for the longest time now. So the Democrats means the Democrats have come up with the idea of doing a virtual nomination, doing what exactly they're proposing. Nominating by mid-July, Joe Biden, and make it official, he's the nominee of the party. Well, that idea was kicked around originally as a means to try to, get around this Ohio problem. Now they're actually kicking it around as a means to try to stop the rebellion inside the party. Now, this rebellion, such as it is, takes on different forms and engages different players. There's the Obama faction of the party. There's the media. There's the younger Democrats. There's older Democrats. There are the Democrats who are part of the National Committee. There are all the delegates who are more or less handpicked by Joe Biden. There are congressional Democrats, and I mean, they're talking about this. Jamie Raskin's got a comment, and I'll put it up here in a quick second. Before I do that, let me do one thing here real fast. How bad is it for Democrats right now trying to figure out what the heck to do? This is a discussion happened on CNN. I have not had a chance to hear this, but this is just absolutely awful. Check this out.
Debate numbers. And the bottom line, Al, it's not any good. It's not any good. Look at this. Voters who say that Biden has the mental health to be president. It was just 35% pre-debate. Look where it's dropped to now post-debate, 27%. How about that he should be running for president? It was 37% pre-debate. It's now 28%. I have never seen numbers this bad for an incumbent president during my lifetime. I mean, that mental health to be president, just 27%. You might say, okay, you know, that's low, but a lot of people thought Biden was too old back in 2020. These numbers look nothing like this back in 2020. These numbers were bad already. And the truth is, Allison, they have gotten just considerably worse, even in just a few days after that first presidential debate.
Harry, do we have polling yet that suggests that voters want a different candidate?
Yeah, this is the whole question, right? If it's not President Biden, then who could it be on the Democratic side? And the truth is, there are no easy answers. You know, I went back and looked at the polling versus Donald Trump for a bunch of different Democrats have been suggested. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris. Look at this. They all trail Donald Trump. So the idea here that we're somehow going to get this magic bullet, that there's somehow going to be some Democrat who can beat Donald Trump easily, I just don't see it in the numbers. At this particular point, if Joe Biden takes on Donald Trump, he's trailing. If there's another Democrat who runs against Donald Trump, they too are trailing. Perhaps you want to make the argument you bring in another Democrat who isn't as well known as Joe Biden, who's has universal name recognition, and maybe they could change the numbers. But the fact is, any Democrat who entered the race right now, at least among those that are being suggested by a bunch of folks, they would all enter the race at this particular point as an underdog to former President Donald Trump.
But Harry,
and there's the $1 million problem for the Democrats. Let's assume for a moment that somebody actually gets Joe Biden to pull the trigger and volunteer to come off the ticket. I don't think it's going to happen, but let's just assume it does. Now think about it. Let's say this happens by mid-July. Okay? August, September, October. You basically have 3 months, 3.5 months to put together a national campaign staff, build out from that a national team. Well, let me back up a second. A core team that runs the day-to-day. Then you have to build out a national campaign team. Then you have to raise more money than Midas because Donald Trump is going to come out of the gate against a new Democrat opponent with a probably 3 times the amount of money you're going to have starting out. You have to buy advertising. You have to schmooze donors. If you have let's put it this way. If you have a 25-year-old Democrat operative who signs up for that campaign, and when he signs up for it, he or she is in perfect health, they don't drink, they don't smoke, they run 5 miles a day, you know, they're a fantastic physical and mental specimen. By the time that campaign would be over with, they're going to be chain smoking, drinking like a fish, have 3 or 4 different ulcers, and they're going to look like they're 75 years old. How old are you? I'm 25. You look like you're in your 70s. It was a rough campaign. What can I tell you? I mean, and that doesn't even get to the question of the candidate, which, by the way, I'm going to do something I very rarely ever do here on the electronic front porch. But Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, Jared Polis of Colorado, or any congressional Democrat, Senate, or House, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. If somebody in the Democrat Party or some big-time Democrat donor comes to you and says, "Oh my God, you've got to do it. You gotta do one for the party. You gotta take this one on," run away. Don't do it. It's a suicide mission. Whoever that person comes to you and wants you to be the nominee, getting rid of Joe, they're basically asking you to be the sacrificial lamb. Your best bet is to wait till 2028. Seriously. So Gavin, Gretchen, JB, Jared, all the rest of you, don't do it. You don't want to do this. I'm telling you. Don't take the bait. I mean, Newsom might want the job, but if Newsom's got any brains, he's going to let this one go. I mean, look, I'm going to give Gavin Newsom the benefit of the doubt. Okay, this whole world tour, the shadow campaign he's been doing, I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt and say he's working for 2028. He's building up his profile nationally, which would be smart. It would be. Now, I said I'm giving him benefit of the doubt. That doesn't mean I believe that that's what he's really doing. I really believe he's like a vulture that's circling over top of Joe Biden and has been circling over top of him for months, waiting for what happened Thursday night. Can I prove that? No, I can't prove it. Do I think it? Absolutely. Same thing with Whitmer. Same thing with Pritzker of Illinois. They're like a bunch of vultures circling over top. TBA says Newsom is building his profile nationally by destroying California. Well, I didn't say he was building his profile very well or intelligently. I just said that's what he's trying to do. And here's another one. Here's another one wants it. Westmore of Maryland, another vulture out there. But if these guys have any political brains at all, mind you, I didn't say ambition. I know they have ambition. If they've got any political brains at all, and somebody tries to get them to jump into this thing, no. If one half of their brain tries to tell them they ought to jump into this thing, the other half ought to go, sit your ass down. I ain't going. Sit your butt down and don't you dare say anything else. No, do not do it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I want to see any of those people become president. I think they're all atrocious to one degree or another. What is the stat that I saw today? Talking about the state of Illinois. Yeah. There was some organization, I forget who, if it was the feds or some private organization. Illinois is losing $10 billion a year in tax revenue. $10 billion a year. Why? Because everybody's leaving the state. They're just losing money left and right. Caterpillar is moving part of their operations in Decatur and Peoria. So I'm pretty sure it's both, but it could be one of those factories either way. Caterpillar is moving part of their operations to Mexico, which means people out in Illinois are going to be losing jobs, and those are really good paying jobs. Oh, John Deere. I'm sorry. It is John Deere. My apologies. You're right. It is John Deere. Stand corrected. Had an old friend of mine. His dad worked out there at the John Deere plant. Yeah. I don't want to see any of these people become president. But on the other hand, do I want to see him necessarily commit political suicide? No, I want to see him get beat. But, do that. We'll deal with them another day. Let me deal with the one Democrat I got in front of me right now, who, by the way, he ain't coming off the ticket, guys. He is not coming off the ticket. There was a big meeting of the family out of Camp David over the weekend. I wish I had an article pulled. I think I can find it real fast. Hang on. Let me think where it was at. Yeah, it was Politico. Hang on a minute. I can find this. Hang on. Give me 1 minute here. Here we go. Not quite the one I'm looking for, but yeah, actually, I think this will do it. I think this will do it just fine. Check this out. So they had a meeting. Now, let me back this up a second. The Biden family had a meeting at Camp David. Okay. And the reason that the public reason that was given as to why the Biden family was getting together at Camp David, they were taking a family portrait. Okay, fine. Trust me, you get two or more Bidens together, they're going to talk politics or they're going to talk family business stuff, okay? So don't think that this was just all done for the purposes of, having a Kodak moment, okay? Well, everybody, I mean, all weekend long has been, and still right now, is still circulating. Is he going? Is he staying? Is he going? Is he staying? What are the money people doing? What it is mass confusion inside the Democrat Party. Well, the Biden family knows exactly what they're doing. Check this out. Check out this article from Politico. Thank God I was able to find this one real fast. Biden's family privately criticized top advisors and pushes for their ouster at Camp David. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's not Joe Biden's fault. It's not the fact that he has cognitive decline that's painfully obvious to every American who watched that debate the other night. It's not the fact that Joe's slurring his words, or he can't walk up a flight of steps, or he shuffles his feet, or everything else. No, it's the advisor's fault. Let's get back to this article. They urged the president to stay in the race. Article by Jonathan Lemire and Lauren Egan, we have the following. Dateline, Camp David. Members of the Joe Biden family privately trashed his top campaign advisors at Camp David this weekend, blaming them for the president's flop in Thursday's debate and urging Biden to fire or demote people in his political high command. There is no immediate expectation that Biden will follow through on that advice, according to 3 people briefed on the family conversations, but not directly involved. The 3 people were granted anonymity to discuss the matter. Among the family's complaints about the debate practice, that Biden was not prepared to pivot more to go on the attack. He is bogged down too much on defending his record rather than outlining a vision for a second term, and that he was overworked and not well rested. Oh, BS! Okay, no. You took him off the trail for 10 days. 3 days of it was up there at Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. 7 days were out there at Camp David. He didn't have to do any administration stuff related to his job. All he was doing in that 7-day period was prepping for this debate. And you're trying to convince all of us that he wasn't well rested and he was overworked. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. I am not about to take that crap. Anyway, sorry. Back to the article. The blame was cast widely on staffers, including Anita Dunn, the senior advisor who frequently has the president's ear, her husband, Bob Bauer, the president's attorney who played Trump in the rehearsals at Camp David, and Ron Klain, the former chief of staff who ran point on the debate prep and previous cycles sessions. The aides who prepped the president have been with him for years, often decades, seeing him through victories and challenges. He maintains strong confidence in them, said campaign spokesperson Kevin Munoz. A senior Biden aide also pushed back, saying it's not true that frustration was directed at Dunn, Bauer, or Klain. The focus on the staff, however, also allowed the family to overlook Biden's own failings in Atlanta, one of the people familiar noted. Those people said the Biden family wanted the president to continue to campaign rather than end his career with a calamitous debate performance against Trump, whom they all loathe. First Lady Jill Biden and son Hunter were the loudest voices urging the president to stay in this contest. Okay, I want to talk about that last sentence for a second. You know, I've been saying for the longest time, that what in the world kind of family have you got that you would let a man who is quite obviously has physical and mental problems, it's not even in question anymore. What kind of family members are you that you would let a man go on national television and humiliate himself like this? And I'm not. By the way, I am not surprised at all that it's Jill Biden and Hunter Biden who are pushing the loudest to make sure he stays in. Because think about it, Jill loves the nightlife and she loves the boogie. Hunter's got to make sure his legal butt is covered, because if Daddy's not there to pardon him, then he don't know what he gonna do. This is nothing more than brazen self-interest on the part of these two jackals. Whatever meat is left on the bone of the almost complete carcass that is Joe Biden, they're trying to tear off their last piece of it. They're going to get theirs. TBA, well, Jill is a gold digger, Hunter's a cokehead, and brother Jim is father of the family business. Exactly. Yeah, but a little bit different, though. A little bit different. Different set of circumstances. And I'm not dismissing what you're trying to say, but I just don't think that necessarily is a completely fair comparison. Pritzker's a little bit dangerous, but not that he can't be handled. Put it that way. It's not his time yet. Not yet. But yeah, am I surprised that Jill and Hunter are out there? Oh, Joe, you got to hang into this thing. You can do it. Who was it? There was one article, and I want to say it was Axios, said that. We're getting to that. We're getting to that, dear. I love you. Hang on. We're getting to that. I think it was Axios who said that Hunter is the loudest voice of them all to keep his dad in the race. In his words, and I quote, "I want people to see my dad for who he is. A man in full control of the facts and feisty." I'm thinking, you self-serving, low-life, bottom-feeding scum sucker of a son and a human being. That's your justification? Or at least that's the one you're saying anyway. Come on, Hunter. Give it up. Nobody's buying it. I mean, TBA is absolutely right. You need a pardon. And you got to make sure your legal meal ticket doesn't go checking out before you get yours. You smug SOB, I swear. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Anywho. So the DNC wants, well, let's rephrase that. Newspaper people want him gone. You've got activists that are screaming about it. You got TV people screaming about it. They want Joe gone. They want him out of there. The polling looks absolutely atrocious. Then you've got congressional Democrats like Jamie Raskin. I was shocked that this one went on the record. Check this out from Breitbart. Jamie Raskin. Dems are having serious conversations at every level about Biden's future. Now, I bet they are. Article by Pam Key, we have the following. Representative Jamie Raskin, Democrat, Maryland, said Sunday that on Velshi that discussions are taking place about President Joe Biden's future as the party's nominee. Raskin said, quote, "This is what a real political party looks like, and this is what a real political party does. Obviously, there was a big problem with Joe Biden's debate performance, and there's also just a tremendous reservoir of love for Joe Biden. So this makes it a difficult situation for everybody, but there are very honest and serious and rigorous conversations happening at every level of our party because it is a political party and we have differences in point of view. We are having serious conversations about what to do." Raskin added, "Only thing I can tell you is that regardless of what President Biden decides, our party is going to be unified, and our party also needs him to be at the very center of the deliberations in our campaign. So whether he's the candidate or someone else is the candidate, he's going to be the keynote speaker at the convention. He will be the figure that we rally around moving forward to beat the forces of authoritarianism and reaction in this country." You know, under normal circumstances, I have not an ounce of use for Jamie Raskin, but I got to tell you something. That has to be the most honest assessment I've ever heard Jamie Raskin give. That's the most honest I've ever heard him be. He's right. He is absolutely right. It doesn't matter if it's House Democrats, Senate Democrats, people who are running to get in the House and Senate, every candidate across this country. Everybody. No, I don't think Raskin's pulling my leg. I don't think he is. I think he's being genuinely honest about it. They are having these discussions, TBA. They are absolutely having these discussions. They know they've got. Look, if you're a congressional candidate, if you're running for the Senate, can you really campaign with this guy right now? Can you run the risk of somebody snapping a photo of the two of you raising arms together? No, it's a disaster. Bob Casey up in Pennsylvania is running away from Joe Biden faster than he's trying to, as if he were just touched a leper. I mean, Biden has become politically radioactive for these people. They cannot be around him. They don't want to be around him. Now, they might say they want to be around him, but they don't want to be around him. They're looking at the polling numbers. They're looking at the debate performance. They're saying, this is not getting any better, guys. We got to do something. But then again, there's no way you can't do it. And WWG1 brings up a great point. If they get rid of Biden, don't they also say goodbye to his war chest? There's another $1 million question. If Biden drops out of this thing, where does the money go? When I say the money, I mean the money already sitting in the Biden-Harris campaign war chest. Do they have to refund it? How do you refund it? I don't know. It's a logistical nightmare, even if they wanted to do it. Even if the Democrats want to remove him, how do you do it? I mean, you guys heard the quote from Sean Parnell the other day from where he was on Rich Barrett's show. The FEC nightmare, the money nightmares, the legal, everything else, it would just be an absolute train wreck. Look, I love, in my personal life, I love setting up things. It's kind of goes, I'm a weird person that way, but I love the meticulousness of this gear turns, then this happens. This lever drops, and then this thing moves over. I love watching the moving parts of a plan that I put together happen to lead to its whatever it is I'm trying to get accomplished. I sometimes love watching all the machinations happen more so than I do the actual event. But then again, that's just me. I'm weird like that. But even somebody like me that loves the logistics and the mechanics of seeing something be done, even I'm looking at this going, ain't no way in the world. Ain't no way in the world that I would get near this. WWG1 says, I want to buy you a grandfather clock. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Yeah, give me a puzzle or something. I don't know. But yeah, I love watching the mechanics of something, that old phrase from the A-Team, I love it when a plan comes together. That's me. I love watching that kind of stuff happen. I love watching, point A to point B to point C to point D. But even as much as I love the mechanics and the logistics of making something happen, there ain't no way in the world, even if I had tons of experience at doing a presidential political campaign, that I'd ever get near this wreck. I don't care how much money they'd offer to pay me. There ain't no amount of money worth that suicide mission or that level of stress or that many ulcers I'd have to recover from. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that the Democrats are having discussions about this. Not in the slightest. But they are. And just to give you an idea, I said a moment ago, Democrats don't want to get near him. Do me a favor, check out this article from Axios. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and drop this thing in chat right now. Well, if I can figure out how to do it, there we go. I'm having one of those nights, folks. What can I tell you? And I'm here all week. Try the veal. From Axios. Democrat candidates run away from Biden. Article by Andrew Solander. We have the following. Democrats in competitive congressional races are beginning to distance themselves from President Biden after the president's halting debate performance. It had been a careful balancing act for many Democrats up until now, but swing district lawmakers and candidates are feeling an increased sense of urgency to try to compartmentalize their races. One swing House Democrat, speaking on condition of anonymity, described frantic efforts to avoid a visit from the president or even First Lady Jill Biden. Oh, jeez. Quote, I don't ever want to see him here, the lawmaker said of Biden, adding that every single donor, and I'm not only calling major donors, is furious and wants him to step aside. A senior House Democrat, also speaking on condition of anonymity, relayed discussions with swing district members who are, quote, freaking out about Biden's impact on their races. Distancing from an unpopular president is a well-worn strategy in congressional races, but Biden's unique political vulnerabilities as the oldest president in history have given the dynamic a new dimension. I am not surprised by this at all, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not just congressional Democrats, but the Bidens are never one to just give up easy. Now, you might have heard Gypsy a little bit earlier refer to an article in Vogue magazine. And I'm not going to lie, Tim, I'm a little bit mad about this. This is the cover of Vogue magazine, and it just dropped today. Okay, let me reduce this just a little bit to give you guys, yeah, there we go. That's what the cover looks like. Now, folks, there's a reason why I'm mad about this. And I'm not saying this because he's married to her, but let us be perfectly honest about it. Like her husband or don't like her husband, Melania Trump is probably one of the most beautiful women in the world. She is was a professional model. Featured on magazine covers all over the world. Okay? In her 4 years in the Oval Office, not once did any magazine anywhere in America, even a political magazine, ever put her on the cover. And like I said, you can hate Donald Trump, you can love Donald Trump, or anywhere in between. But there is no denying Melania Trump is an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous woman. And by the way, classy as all get out. Okay? Just a really classy lady. She's not a Nancy Reagan or a Barbara Bush kind of, classy. She's in her own unique way. Okay? And extremely intelligent. Not one magazine cover. Now, maybe in one sense I'm being a little bit petty. Okay? But no offense to Jill Biden. And Jill Biden looks good here. Okay? She does. I'm not going to sit here and say she doesn't. But really? You drop this magazine article now. Now, I bring up this article because I want to read you a statement that went along with its publication. The author of this article wrote this at an appearance that Jill Biden did out in Minnesota, okay? And that was a few weeks ago. And they dropped this now. Airbrushing works wonders, doesn't it? Well, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. WWG1 says, would you rather have Melania or Boebert as your future ex-wife? I'm confused now. Now, wait a minute, WWG1. Hold on. I can say a woman is beautiful, okay? But just because I say she's beautiful does not necessarily mean I'm putting her on the list of future ex-wives, okay? Plus, I got a funny feeling about Melania. I'm not saying she makes Donald Trump toe the line, but I think she makes Donald Trump toe the line, dude. Anyway, what is it? She looks like she has some kind of a bar up her behind. Wait a minute. Hang on a second. All right, now we got to do photo analysis here. Well, I don't know about a bar up her behind, but it looks like somebody put a rod up her back or something. She's standing there quite stiffly, if I may say. Nice looking outfit. Just unbelievable, though. Anyway, I want to read you this one statement. The debate on June 27 spurred a discussion about whether Joe Biden should remain on the Democrat nominee. Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady and Vogue's August cover subject, has fiercely defended her husband and stood by him, reached by phone on June 30th, so this was yesterday at Camp David, where the Biden family gathered for the weekend, she told Vogue that, quote, they will not let those 90 minutes define 4 years he's been president. We will continue to fight. Well, there you go, folks. Jill is bound and determined to make him stay in. Now, this next article is from Reuters. Top Democrats rule out replacing Biden amid calls for him to quit the race. Article by David Morgan and Jarrett Renshaw. Top Democrats on Sunday ruled out the possibility of replacing Joe Biden as the Democrat nominee after a feeble debate performance and called on party members to instead focus on the consequences of a second Trump presidency. After days of hand-wringing about Biden's poor night on the debate stage, Democrat leaders firmly rejected calls for their party to choose a younger presidential nominee. Biden, 81, was huddling with family members at the Camp David retreat on Sunday. The New York Times cited people close to the situation as saying the Biden family was urging him to stay in the race and keep fighting. The paper said some members of his clan privately expressed exasperation at his staff, how they prepared him for Thursday night. Okay, a couple of points. Joe, I don't know if you realize this or not, but all you've been doing is talking about the consequences of a second Trump presidency, and it's not doing you any good. Getting your fellow Democrats to do it for you, which, by the way, they have been doing that already, is not helping you either. Okay? Plus, there's another consideration. And I want you guys' opinion on this. I really do. Okay? Let's assume Joe stays in, which I think that is going to happen. Okay, I really do. They're riding with Biden all the way to the end. Okay, if he gets out, I've always said, if I get one wrong, I'll come here and tell you. But I think he's staying in no matter what. Okay. So they go to the debate on September the 10th. What happens to the Democrat Party if he goes in there and lays another egg like he did Thursday night? Or let's just say that doesn't even happen. Let's say he goes in there and Trump debates him to a draw. In other words, Biden cannot draw political blood on him during the debate. Because the hole that Joe Biden is in right now is enormous. And I'm serious about this. I'm going to show you something here in a minute that will kind of confirm my point. He's in a bad way. I mean, I've been telling my buddy Smiling Jack anytime I talk to him, man, I cannot wait to see some of the polling. Well, today it started to drop. Not all of it, not from everybody, but it's starting to drop. Okay. Well, now this is a fair point too. This is an absolutely fair point. So, fair point. But all things being equal, if he can't go into that next debate and score an amazing victory over Donald Trump, he's sunk. The only thing left at that point is cheating. And I say this respectfully, I'm not saying they won't try. I just don't know that there's enough of it that they can cheat to make this happen. Now, let me show you. And again, we're just now in the beginning of July. I get it. Things can change. But folks, we had some stuff drop today, and I think y'all need to see it. From New Hampshire, Trump has a 2-point lead, which, by the way, folks, in case you're wondering, this poll was taken mostly before the debate, but just a little bit after. Trump has never led in a poll in New Hampshire up till now. That's New Hampshire. In Pennsylvania, here's a new poll that just dropped from Signal, which is a Republican polling firm, to be fair, but Trump's got a 4-point lead in Pennsylvania. The Real Clear Politics average, 3%. Okay? If you throw in other candidates in Pennsylvania, it's still a 4-point lead. General election, Morning Consult, Trump up by 1. Here's the Harvard-Harris poll. Trump's over 50%, and he's got a 4-point lead nationwide. If you throw in all the other candidates, Trump's lead drops below 50, but it widens out to an 8-point lead. You know, I've got an article pulled up here, and I won't bother bringing it up. But again, it's from Axios. Well, I'll do this for you. I will drop this in chat. The article says that donors are waiting to see the polls before they decide what they want to do. Well, I got bad news for the donors, and I'll let you guys read this at your convenience. I got bad news for the donors. The poll numbers are dropping, and if you donors are trying to figure out a way to get Joe Biden out of this race, good luck to you, because I'm telling you right now, he don't want to get out. Jill doesn't want him to get out. Hunter doesn't want him to get out. Joe's going to stay in. So if you guys have got some kind of magic that says you can get him out and you think you can perform it, let me know when you want to do it, because I want to pull up a chair and get some popcorn to watch that show. That's going to be real good. So yeah, this is where, I mean, right now, and again, I said this over the weekend, and I'll say it again. There's going to be rumors flying around everywhere. No one knows what's going to happen until it actually happens. I mean, I think it's interesting. I'll bring it here to discuss it with you, you know, just to put it out there for public consumption and get your guys' take on it. But I don't think he's getting out. And again, he's running out of time. I've got an article here. This one I will pull up. Apparently, Joe's got some kind of plan to save himself from all this. Again, this is from Axios. Article by Mike Allen, who's one of the principal writers over there at Axios. A massive political PR and personal campaign is underway to reject calls for Joe Biden to drop his election race and rally Democrats to move on from the debate performance about age and his future. Top officials tell Mike Allen and Jim Vanderhei at Axios. Biden has zero interest in stepping aside, and First Lady Jill Biden and key family members and friends agree, according to people who talk regularly with them. Biden, who has ducked tough interviews and avoided no-holds-barred press conferences, is now considering both. Look for a town hall or big one-on-one interview this month. With who? Let me back up a second. If he does a genuine one-on-one interview where the interviewer can ask him no-holds-barred questions and there's no editing of his answers, then that's just going to make it even worse. Joe Biden went down to Atlanta, had 10 days to prepare for that debate. According to reports, was looking at every policy book, everything, trying to figure out, get all his facts together. Went into a debate, had no teleprompter, no audience to distract him. The rules of that debate were set up to advantage Joe Biden, and he still couldn't do it. I have a question. If this is what Biden is actually thinking about doing, how is this going to help him? Because this is just going to be the continuation of Thursday night. He's going to get a hold of somebody who's going to ask him tough questions and actually put him on the grill. I don't think he's going to sit down for an interview with Tucker Carlson. But if he's genuinely serious about this, about not getting some lollipop of an interview, then he's sunk. I'm sorry, he's sunk. A town hall, a genuine, real town hall, where CNN or MSNBC isn't, spoon feeding him stuff and making sure they don't filter out the audience to take care of, make sure no one asks him a dangerous question. This will never happen. And think about it for a second. Think about it this way. And I wish I had it pulled up. I could probably do it real quick. I saw a great article today from Mark Hemingway over at the Federalist. And he makes an absolutely fabulous point. The media isn't upset at the fact that Joe Biden is senile. They're upset about the fact that they can't cover it up anymore. I'll take that one step further. They're upset because they realize their credibility's on the line here. Immediately after that debate, the New York Times editorial board called for Biden to get out of the race. Over the weekend, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution did the same thing. Why are they doing it? Oh, it's not because they care about the country, and it's not because they care about the presidency or you and me or anybody else. No, they're trying to cover their political and their journalistic asses. They have aided and abetted in this lie for 3 years. What lie am I referring to? The lie that says that Joe Biden is fully capable and competent enough to do the job of president of the United States. They have covered up for him. They have gone the attack dog on anybody who's brought up questions about Joe Biden's capabilities. They have made everybody miserable trying to make sure that they cover up and cover for him and gloss over and make sure you don't see what is plain to your own eyes. They've tried to gaslight you. They have tried to convince you that none of this is true. And they can't do it anymore. So now, for the next 4 months, he's going to do big interviews and town halls and let it rip. Well, that's just going to make it even worse, not just for him, but for the press. Because everybody's going to look at the press and go, hey, how come you guys didn't do this for him with 18 months prior to now? Isn't that your job? And they're going to look at the conditions of that town hall or that debate or that whatever, and they're going to say, this isn't real. This isn't real. This is just the press's way of trying to, set it up so that Joe Biden looks good. That's all this gets down to. So, I mean, I'm not buying. If this is his idea how to get back in the game, this is not going to work. He would be opening the door to have a repeat of what happened at Atlanta. Now, the only saving grace he would have in this, if it's a tape interview, that might save him. That might be the only thing that saves him. Good evening, JNA. Glad to have. Where's the porch? Well, it's kind of all around you. It's kind of like the Force. No, there is a back porch. There is a back porch out there. Anyway, glad to have you here tonight. But yeah, I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. So yeah, I'm telling you, if the polling continues to get worse, and that's what I'm waiting to see. One more thought about this, and then we'll switch topics. I said there's a civil war going inside the Republican Party. There's knives out everywhere. Well, it seems to me the biggest set of knives are going on right now between the Obama part of the party and the Biden part of the party. And Obama is realizing, I can't get rid of him. Well, there you go. You're stuck with him. All you Democrats are stuck with Joe Biden. And there ain't a thing you can do about it unless he decides to do it. And I'm telling you right, which, by the way, I said that was my last point. No, I got one more. Hate is a very powerful motivator. Joe Biden and Jill Biden's hatred of Donald Trump may wind up costing the Democrat Party everything in this election. Just think about that for a little while, and you'll begin to understand why I'm saying that. Anyway, oh my gosh, I am really on overtime tonight. Sorry, folks, I'm really long-winded this evening, but I had to get into all this stuff. My name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative. This little live stream that you found, just like JNA 919 over here, is called Chattin on the Porch. We get together in the evenings and talk about the news, and I know you guys have got lives, and I'm going to wrap this up. I've got one more topic to talk about tonight. But if you're just coming to this live stream for the first time, do me a favor. Give me a subscription. Give me a subscription to Rumble. Give me a subscription on YouTube. And follow me on Twitter. I'm in all those places. And we will see each other, laugh together, cry together, and talk about the news together. Well, JNA, proverbially speaking, it's the front porch. Practically, you're going to see me right here. Although it's been suggested over time I ought to do one of these on my porch. But I have various reasons for not. But anyway, there you go. Yes, and by all means, give me a thumbs up on Rumble and YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. So yes, subscribe, give thumbs up, do all that happy stuff. All right. Last topic of the night, and I'll let you guys get out of here. This will happen one of these days. Don't worry, this will happen one of these days. But stick with me. I promise I'm still fun. Anyhow, last topic of the night. And I've freely confessed that I am a political junkie weirdo. And it's not just American elections that intrigue me or American politics. It's sometimes what goes on around the world. And I'm watching what's going on in France, and this is extraordinary. Now, how it all pans out, I don't know yet. But the reason in part that I am so intrigued with the French election, the French right now, the French people, kind of remind me of Americans prior to 1994. They knew something was wrong with their government, and every time they get a step closer and a step closer, but they couldn't bring themselves to finally do it. And then inevitably, the weight of inevitability just knocks the whole thing over. Okay. Well, I think that's what's happening in France. I mean, France is probably one of the most famous socialist countries in the whole of Europe. And calling them socialists isn't really far from the truth. They've had presidents who are admitted socialists, and not just ideologically. I mean, practically, that's their party. They are socialist. But more and more, because of immigration concerns and everything else, France is moving to the political right. Now, I say moving to the political right, you can't really compare American conservatism to French conservatism, okay? Different set of issues, different sets of things that make up what's going on. The other thing about France is their president, Emmanuel Macron, has been a big proponent of what is some people refer to as Project Ukraine. I mean, he's been out there at the forefront like Boris Johnson and Joe Biden, pushing for, hey, let's keep this thing going against the Russians. We're just going to help Ukraine win. The French have been funding them. They've been sending the weapons, have been doing stuff. Not quite to the scale that we've been doing it. But the French, I mean, Macron has been out there, at the forefront of trying to make this thing happen with the Russians and the Ukrainians. Well, as the old movie title says, reality bites, and it's finally come back to bite him. From the Wall Street Journal, far right wins first round of French parliamentary elections. Le Pen's National Rally Party is set on track to score an unprecedented haul of seats in the July 7th runoff. Article by Naomi Biserby and Stacy Mitchkeri. Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party notched a victory in the first round of parliamentary elections across France on Sunday, moving her party one step closer to its goal of winning control of the National Assembly and taking the reins of government. National Rally and its allies won 33% of first-round votes, while the New Popular Front, a coalition of leftist parties, garnered 28% of the ballots. President Emmanuel Macron's pro-business party and its allies finished third with 21%. National Rally is on track to score an unprecedented haul of parliamentary seats when voters return to the ballot box for the June 7th runoff, marking a watershed moment in the history of France's modern Fifth Republic. If National Rally wins a majority in the National Assembly, Macron would face the possibility of sharing power with the first far-right government since Vichy's France. Macron's presidential term ends on 2027, and he said he won't resign. I'm not so sure about that. Macron placed a massive bet when he called the snap elections, expecting to edge out leftist parties in the first round and force their voters to rally around his party to the runoff that they had in previous national elections. The election, Macron said, would provide France with a moment of, quote, clarification after her forces trounced his in European elections at the start of June. Going a little further into the article, now Macron's calculation appears to have backfired, ushering Le Pen and her allies within striking distance of a 289-seat majority in the National Assembly. That would compel Macron to select a prime minister from Le Pen's ranks, as Paris is just weeks away from hosting the Summer Olympics. On Sunday, Le Pen reveled in the thought of her protege, 28-year-old Jordan Bardella, running the next government. Bardella has placed immigration and the rising cost of living at the center of his campaign, hammering the president over inflation and promising to turn the page on 7 years of Macronism. Quote, we need an absolute majority so that Jordan Bardella will be appointed prime minister in 8 days by Emmanuel Macron, Le Pen said in a speech before a crowd of supporters waving tricolor flags. I said at the beginning of the live stream, we are truly living in momentous times, and that's no doubt at all. No doubt whatsoever. I'm going to do something, and I'm not going to play all of it, but I'm going to play a snippet of it momentarily. I'm dropping into chat on both the YouTube and the Rumble side one of the most recent videos done by the boys from the Duran. And they are excellent when it comes to European politics. I really recommend you watch it. It's about 20 minutes long. Watch it, listen to it in your car, taking a walk in the park, whatever. But it is a really good assessment of the French elections and where it's going from here. But to give you an idea of just how widespread this victory was, here's an article from Bloomberg. Le Pen's support surges in nearly every city, town, and village in France. Article by Tom Fevrier and Marie Patino. We have the following. Support for far-right politician, and I hate the use of the term far-right. They're not far-right. Marine Le Pen and her National Rally Party increased since 2017 in 98.6% of France's municipalities in the first round of the snap elections called earlier in June, according to a Bloomberg analysis of data from France's Interior Ministry. In a legislative election that has already seen the highest turnout in first-round voting since 1997, Le Pen's party and her allies doubled their score in more in 83.3% of these areas, and the most in the departments of Paris, Haute-Corse, Cantal, and Lozère. In 2/3 of municipalities in those four departments, National Rally scored below 10% in the 2017 election. And here's a map to give you an idea of where they did well and where they didn't. The really dark purple areas are her votes, and it is really interesting. It really is. So, for the BBC, Le Pen's party is now the dominant force in France. Now, let me back up and say one thing. Do I think that conservative French politicians are on the verge of getting a hold of the majority in their version of the House of Representatives? I don't know. They might not. The 2-round voting system that the French have is very, very convoluted. So it remains to be seen what happens here. But the fact that the French, after so many years of leftism and socialism, are now actually like right on the edge. They are right on the edge of moving to the political right. It's just extraordinary to me. Just amazing. I'll give you one snippet from the boys from the Duran, and I think this is a really interesting question. Let's assume for a moment that Marine Le Pen and her National Rally Party does take over in France. What happens to Emmanuel Macron? Well, the boys from the Duran have a discussion about that, so here you go.
Yeah. What happens to Macron? Does he remain a discredited, a toxic president for 2-3 more years? Does he take on that role? Maybe he only deals with foreign policy stuff and doesn't even bother with domestic issues at all. Do we have a national rally prime minister, even if there is an impasse? Does he call it quits if there's an impasse?
Well,
tough questions.
Tough questions. I still personally think that sooner or later he's going to go. And I say sooner or later, I mean sometime within this year, maybe even within the next few weeks. The fact is, he has lost control of the French Parliament conclusively. And when you talked about foreign policy, it's absolutely correct that the President of France controls foreign policy. The foreign minister and the defense minister take their instructions from him, not from the prime minister. But what we have in the French Parliament is a situation where 2/3 of the MPs, presumably, or at least 2/3 of the votes in the election, have gone to parties which categorically reject his foreign policy. Both the Frankenstein left movement and Le Pen's party and the various other minor parties that lie to the left, to the right of Le Pen's, and which are to some extent aligned with her, all agree on certain things, which is, of course, that they reject Project Ukraine and that they're deeply skeptical about further integration, or at least that is what they say. So the French voters have overwhelmingly, in an election with a high turnout, backed parties that oppose President Macron's foreign policy. Now, of course, he might try and hold out and remain president in the face of all of that. But I suspect that if he does, you mentioned how toxic he's become, I think it will mobilize more opposition to him and to his policies within the French National Assembly.
Well, there you go, folks. Now, again, we don't know what's going to happen yet, but this is fascinating to watch, which, by the way, who was it? Yeah. TBA asks, are you streaming on the 4th of July? At this point, I'm going to say no, but I might do something later in the evening if for no other reason than this. The English are having an election on July the 4th. Yes, I know. The fact that the British are having an election on July the 4th, the historical irony is not lost on me. And if you think what happened on Sunday over in France was interesting, oh, baby, buckle up. The British are more pissed off than the French are. I'm telling you, in the space of the next 10 days, you could see potentially, and again, it's not guaranteed, but in the next 10 days, you could see some serious change of leadership in Europe. And I'm telling you, we're living in momentous times. TBA says, what about a Friday night stream? Might do that. I don't know yet. I don't know for sure, but I know I'm streaming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. I'm going to be here Saturday. Thursday or Friday, I got to think about this. I mean, you give me good ideas either way here. But folks, I'm telling you, it's just get ready. I'm personally excited. I am personally just hyped. I'm telling you, we are living in amazing times. And with that, we're going to go ahead and bring it to a close for tonight. WWG wants to stop badgering the poor man, TBA. Oh goodness. No, you guys are awesome. You guys are totally awesome. I love you guys, every last one of you. So yeah, it's been a fun Monday evening. With that, we're going to go ahead and bring it to a close for the night. We're going to be back tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern. And yes, there will be more news to talk about. And oh my gosh, mercy. And it's just Monday. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, my name's Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. We will be back tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern. Thank everybody who listened in on Rumble, on Twitter, on YouTube. I love all you guys. And as we depart, remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, more money." I'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30. Thanks so much for hanging out with me.